Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this evening's conference with Le Cercle des Langues. Tonight, we will be discussing cross-cultural negotiation, tips for global business success. This evening's conference is level 2B2. We will have the conference presentation for the first 25 minutes. And for the last 5 minutes, we will have a question and answer session. So if you have any questions, please put them into the chat, or you can put your questions onto a piece of paper and we will address them at the end. So let's begin. This evening's conference has 4 parts. We will talk about how do we understand cultural differences. We will talk about communication styles and strategies, negotiation styles around the world, and the last part we will focus on building trust and reaching agreement. So let's begin. Understand cultural differences in business. So just a reminder to please make sure your microphone is muted. Let's begin. So what is cross-cultural negotiation? The definition is the process of making business deals between people from different cultural backgrounds. It requires understanding customs, values, and communication styles. Because as we know, everybody in different cultures could have different beliefs. And it is important that we understand those beliefs in order to create a negotiation. Why does culture matter? Culture affects how we speak, how we express emotions, how we show respect, and how we solve conflicts. Misunderstandings happen when we ignore these differences. So how do we make this easier together? The vocabulary we look at when we talk about cultural basics. The first thing is we talk about our customs. Our customs are the rules or traditions in a particular culture that are followed. We talk about the values, and the values we think about the belief systems on which the culture is built. Then we talk about etiquette. Etiquette talks about the mannerisms, our manners, the things we do that deem respectful or disrespectful. Body language. How do we create gestures based on our cultures? Our tone of voice. Our time perception. That means how do we view time and how do we view occurrences in time? Our hierarchy. Who are the people at the top, the middle, the bottom, and how do we treat those people? What are our taboos? The things that we see as non-negotiables or subjects that we do not discuss. And punctuality. So our ability to arrive on time. So let's look at greetings around the world. In Japan, people bow, whereas in the US, they shake hands. In France, they may give a kiss on the cheek. Each culture has its own greeting rules. It's also important to remember that it depends on the formal or informal situations. For example, in France, they give a kiss on the cheek if they are in social situations. However, in a professional situation, there might be a different custom. They would shake hands. So it's important to remember that we can make a difference between or create a difference between formal and informal situation. The bottom line is that each culture has its own greeting rules. So let's look at an example of a cultural first impression. So here's a dialogue. Carlos says, I greeted him with a handshake, but he bowed instead. Emily, that's normal in Japan. It shows respect. Carlos, I felt awkward. Emily said, next time, try bowing back. It shows you care about their customs. Carlos, that makes sense. I want to make a good impression. Emily, and asking about local etiquette is always a smart move. Carlos, good idea. I'll do some research before the next meeting. What tip can we use? We can observe and adapt. Before speaking, observe how others behave. Are they formal or relaxed? Loud or quiet? Adapt your style and you'll build rapport more easily. Let's move on from the first topic, and now we are talking about communication styles and strategies. The first thing we can look at is direct versus indirect communication. Some cultures say things very directly, like Germany or the Netherlands. Others prefer indirect ways, like Japan or the UK, to protect harmony and avoid conflict. The vocabulary that we look at when we talk about communication is negotiation. As negotiation, it's always a part of a meeting between two people, whether it is a meeting between two different cultures or people of the same culture. We talk about compromise. Our ability to compromise is our ability to see the other person's side and come to an agreement where both parties could be happy. We need clarification. That means we need clarity. So we need everything to be clear. There could be misunderstandings if one person is not aware of the other person's customs. It's important to have active listening, where we listen with the intention of being present, something that's quite important. We pay attention to our tone of voice. Am I speaking fast and aggressively and loud? Or am I speaking quietly, slowly, with a tone of empathy? We also talk about the silence, meaning, is there silence in the room? Or are people constantly interrupting? Are there interruptions? And expressions. What are people's facial expressions? Let's look at a dialogue example of someone being too direct. This price is too high. It's not acceptable. That sounds too direct. Maybe say, we were hoping for a better offer. Right. I didn't mean to offend. It's about being clear and polite, especially when negotiating with new partners. Got it. Next time I'll soften my words. That way, you keep the conversation open and positive. Makes sense. Tone really does matter. A tip for communication is to ask, not assume. If something is unclear, ask politely. For example, if someone says something that seems slightly off or slightly inappropriate, or you could ask, do you mean this or do you mean that? For clarity. Could you clarify that, please? Just to be sure, are we agreeing on point A? Or would you mind explaining that a bit more? This brings clarity. We have some strategies for clear communication. And the first one is to speak slowly. Use short and clear sentences. avoid jokes or slang, confirm understanding, and repeat key points if necessary. Then we have negotiation styles around the world. Different approaches to negotiation. Some countries prefer quick deals. Others prefer long conversations before deciding. Always learn the negotiation style of your business partner. So what kind of negotiation tactics could we use? We could use persuasion, compromise, consensus, bargaining. We could simply have patience, or we use persistence. We need to reach an agreement, a contract, or sign the deal. So this is the kind of vocabulary you will see when we are talking about negotiation tactics and styles. So here's an example of people who have different timelines. They haven't answered my email in 2 weeks. In Brazil, it's normal to build relationships before making decisions. So I shouldn't worry? No, just give them time. Rushing may damage the trust. Okay, I'll send a friendly message instead of pushing. Great idea. Showing patience can go a long way. I guess business isn't only about speed, but also about respect. Key traits by region. So again, this is just a general idea. People have different experiences, and so we need to take that into account. But for a general understanding, when we look at companies like Germany, we notice a culture of punctual, organized, direct people. In China, you could find indirect, respectful, long-term thinking. The UK could be reserved, diplomatic, tradition conscious. In the US, you could find a fast-paced, confident, goal-focused culture. In Latin America, you could find warm, flexible, people first. And in Japan, you could find polite, detail-oriented, harmony-driven. So some tips for managing these different kinds of situations is to, number one, read the situation. Is the client relaxed or tense? Do they prefer talking before the deal? Read the room and adjust your approach with empathy. Don't force the deal. If someone says, we'll think about it, give them space. Being too aggressive can damage the relationship. Trust builds slowly. And the final and one of the most important parts is building trust and reaching an agreement. Trust comes before business. In many cultures, people won't discuss money or contracts until trust is established. Be patient and show genuine interest in their needs. Let's look at some vocabulary for reaching an agreement. We talk about the terms of our agreement and the mutual understanding. So the understanding or between mutual means between both parties. We talk about respect, the contract, a handshake, a signature, understanding, fairness, and a timeline. So building trust, here is an example. I want to discuss figures today. It might be too soon. They are still getting to know us. Should I follow up tomorrow? Maybe invite them for coffee. Let's build the relationship first. You're right. Business starts with connection. Trust takes time. It's an investment. What do we talk about when we think of win-win thinking? Win-win thinking allows us to focus on shared success, not just your gain. Suggest options where both sides benefit. Compromise shows goodwill and builds long-term partnerships. In conclusion, in global business, success isn't measured only by signed contracts, but by the bridges we build across the borders. When we listen with curiosity, speak with care, and negotiate with empathy, we turn differences into strength. Culture, after all, is the true currency of connection, and those who learn its value become not just better negotiators, but wiser human beings. You can make it happen.